All right, welcome back. This is a travel channel. Basically, I haven't been uploading much, but I got a lot of stuff, a lot of content that I'm working on. And in the meantime, I want to tell you about some travel accessories or shoes. Well, they're not really travel shoes or accessories, but I like to travel in them. So this is pretty much a review of Barefoot shoes. When I get done with the video, I guess you can kind of figure out why I would travel with these, or kind of influence or persuade people to travel with these. Because the first thing is they're light. So if you want to travel light, you can backpack it. You can put all these shoes in your backpack and you barely feel the difference. So anyway, I've been wearing these Barefoot shoes for a while now, and I decided to put together a video showing you what I think about them. So I'm not just gonna sit here and tell you, oh, these shoes are so amazing. I actually wear these. I wore them and I will still wear them. I didn't replace all my shoes, but I find myself wearing these most of the time. I'm an Adidas man by history and heart, but I've been learning to let go of some of the labels that I like to associate myself with. So anyway, I wore these things. I ran in them. I worked in them. I worked out in them. I walked around outside. I wore them to work. And basically, I put them through real life issues. So I got a few different pairs to show you today. And now that I think about it, this video is probably going to be, there's probably going to be a part 2, because I bought so many different brands. And my wife, being a health coach, health and wellness coach, she's the one who put me onto these, because these are what's used in the health and wellness field. So back to the video. So we got the Flux Footwear Adapt Graphene RR, the Adapt Runner. We have the Gobi 2 sneaker and the Pilgrim Barefoot Boots by Vivobarefoot. So let me show you. So these are a pair of my, you see they're worn in, beyond worn in. Matter of fact, I just ordered a new pair. So anyway, these are the Flux Footwear Adapt Graphene RR, and I use these primarily running shoes in the gym. Or, you know, when I go to the gym, that's a non-running day, so I run on a treadmill. And then when I don't go to the gym, I run outside with these. And these are the Gobi 2 sneaker. See how they look. And these are the Pilgrim Barefoot Boots by Vivobarefoot. Stylish. Okay, so I'll tell you what I liked, what I didn't like. All of them are HSA and FSA eligible, which is a nice little bonus if you have one of those accounts. So let's get into it. The Adapt Graphene RR. So these are basically the shoes I gravitated towards when I wanted something for running, high intensity interval training, and working out. Now, before I took them outside, I had to do this first test and trying them on in the living room. Of course, the dogs are here supervising the entire operation, because apparently whenever I'm doing something in the house, they need to be involved. So, but the first thing I noticed with these is the really weight. That's really what I noticed. Like they're very light. You don't have that big bulky feeling you get from some traditional running shoes. You know, like today's shoes, you know, they got a sole like this thick. Like they look like moon shoes or something you would wear on I don't know. It's, you know, I can't, I'm just not into the thick soles, because it keeps you from grounding yourself. I think that's what some might want to happen. But anyway, that's one of the things I like about barefoot shoes. Your feet feel like they're actually allowed to move in them. Now, putting them on in the living room is one thing. Running outside is another. And this was probably the test that I was most interested in because I wanted to see if these were comfortable walking shoes or if I could actually run in them. And for me, they worked really well. They felt lightweight, flexible, and didn't feel like the shoe was fighting against the movement of my feet. Now, if you're new to barefoot shoes, don't make the mistake of putting these on immediately to run 5 miles. Your feet are probably going to look at you like you lost your mind. So give yourself some time to use them. I also put them on the treadmill, and again, I like them. The treadmill is actually a good place to test something like this because you're doing the same movement over and over. And I wanted to see whether I would notice any discomfort or, after spending some time running. But overall, I was pretty comfortable with them. Now, it did take me a good 3 months when I first, bought them to, stop feeling sensations in my ankles and my feet. But after that 3 months, it's just like, because you got to train your feet. You got to train yourself to get back to what we were put on earth, doing when we first arrived here as humans. We walked barefoot. So over years and years of wearing different shoes, especially like hard bottom shoes, it just really messes up your foot and your posture and all that stuff. So like I said, I was comfortable with them. And then I took them to the gym, and this is probably where I appreciated the versatility of these shoes. I'm doing different exercises, moving around, and doing some high intensity interval training type workouts. And I don't feel like I'm wearing a giant running shoe that's getting in the way. They're not clunky and heavy, and you're not tripping over yourself because your weight is even. They're flexible, they're lightweight, and they let you move. And that's what I want from a training shoe. Now, let's talk about the durability. Because I don't care how comfortable a shoe is if it starts falling apart after a couple of months. I'm not buying them just to put them on the shelf and admire them. I'm not trying to just buy them to seem hip or cool or, the latest. It's not a fad. This is like natural. I'm here to give you a closer look of how these shoes held up. And as you saw in the beginning of the video when I showed you, they've still held up because I've been wearing these for over a year. And overall, I was impressed in the gym, and they held up pretty well considering what I put them through. Now let's talk about the Adapt Runner. So these are designed for running, walking, and everyday wear. And here's the thing, I actually liked these shoes, but I had one problem. And it wasn't really the shoe itself, it was the tongue of the shoe. Now, the tongue was irritating the front of my ankle. Didn't matter how thick my socks were, the fit just wasn't right for my ankle. After wearing them for a while, I realized that the whole area around my ankle felt a little too tight. You can see me demonstrating it here while I'm running on the treadmill. And that's the one thing I learned about these shoes. It doesn't matter how good the shoe is supposed to be. If your foot doesn't like it, your foot doesn't like it. So I ended up returning them. That's why I can't show you what they look like now. And then I exchanged them for these. They gave me a better fit around my ankle because the tongue is adjustable. So the other ones just didn't work for me. But that doesn't mean it's a bad shoe. It just didn't fit my foot the way I needed it to or wanted it to. I'm showing you a closer look of the durability. You can see the tongue, the construction, how the shoe is holding up. And honestly, the quality seemed really good. My problem wasn't with really durability. It was the comfort around the ankle. And yeah, that's an important distinction. Sometimes you can have really well-made shoes that just don't agree with your particular foot. Now, let's get into the Gobi 2 sneaker premium canvas. We're not talking about a running or going to the gym shoe. We're talking about everyday sneaker. And I really liked the way these looked. You can see they're stylish, they're nice, they're casual. You know, it's a casual shoe without screaming, hey everybody, I'm wearing barefoot shoes, look at me. You know, and I like that because sometimes you just want a shoe that looks like a normal shoe. So I took these outside, I walked around in them, and they were very comfortable. This is where I think a shoe makes a lot of sense. If you're walking around, running errands, traveling, like I said, good for traveling. You know, you can get off the plane and just, you know, get your walk on, get your run on, whatever. You know, you already look nice going through the airport if you're wearing them in the airport. If you putting them in your, you know, your backpack or your bag, you know, they're so light and you can make room. You can have a lot of room with these shoes in your bag. So needless to say, lightweight and flexible. I really enjoy wearing these. And once again, I'm checking the durability because after you spend money on a shoe, you want to know how it's going to look after you actually used it. And so far, they've held up well. Now, we're going to switch gears completely. These are the Barefoot boots by Vivobarefoot. And I have to say that these are the pair that surprised me the most because we're talking about a barefoot shoe, but it's a boot and a pretty stylish one at that. This particular color, that tan orange look, it's definitely not a subtle color, but we're going to know I'm wearing these. They run roughly in the $200 to $250 mid-range. So these aren't cheap boots and they aren't cheaply made. And when I'm spending that kind of money on footwear, I want to know that I'm getting something that I can actually use. Here, I'm giving you a closer look at the boots. I'm checking out the leather, the construction, the sole, and generally seeing how they're holding up. And I like the fact that these have a more traditional boot appearance while still giving you that barefoot shoe design. Here's probably my favorite thing about these boots is I can wear them in the office and nobody looks at me like I came from the gym. They actually look normal, like a normal stylish boot. I'm sitting at my desk, walking around the office, doing what I normally do, and they're comfortable. And that's a big deal for me because I don't want to have to change shoes every time I go from the gym to work, from casual clothes or something a little more professional. I could work out in these technically, but I'm using them for work. So in that case, they're light enough to keep in my gym bag. You know, if I'm changing at the gym and I'm going straight to work, or, you know, as soon as I get home, I take a shower and get back out to work, they're right at the door, slip them on, good. So anyway, these can actually fit in my everyday wardrobe and those special, you know, occasions. I've actually worn those to a friend's mother's funeral because now I don't want to wear any shoes with a thick heel like that. And yeah, because my feet hurt after that. But anyway, after wearing all these shoes and actually putting them through their paces, here's my honest opinion. The Adapt Graphene RR is probably my favorite for running and working out. The Adapt Runner was a good shoe, but unfortunately, the way the tongue and the ankle felt on my foot just didn't work for me. The Gobi 2 sneaker is probably the one I grab for everyday casual wear. And the Pilgrim Boots, those are great. You know, when I want something that looks a little more polished, especially for the office. But here's the biggest thing. I would say if you are thinking about trying barefoot shoes, don't assume that because somebody else loves a particular shoe, you're automatically going to love it. Your feet are different. What feels great on my foot will probably feel terrible on yours. So just pay attention to the fit. Give yourself time to adjust if you're new to barefoot shoes. And don't ignore discomfort just because a shoe has great reviews. Like I said, when I first started, I was wearing the 5-finger Vibrams and I was running on the concrete with those, and I messed up something on the inside of my foot where I couldn't run for a couple of months. So that was another reason why I wanted to get some barefoot shoes because I liked running in the Vibrams. Just overall, I really enjoyed experimenting with barefoot footwear. And honestly, once you get used to having that much freedom in your feet, some traditional shoes start feeling like you're putting your feet in little coffins, you know. Anyway, that's my review. If you tried barefoot shoes, let me know in the comments what you're wearing. And if you enjoy the video, hit that like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.